Okay, everyone ready? Welcome to our emergency board meeting. I will call it to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands
one
under God, indivisible,
with liberty, justice for all.
Okay. I would like to just make a note that this emergency Zoom meeting has been called to discuss the COVID-19 impacts across the district and possible changes to mitigation protocols. Generally, a 24-hour notice is provided prior to a board meeting. However, due to the circumstances, a 24-hour notice was not possible. Seeing that, board, I would like a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
By roll call?
Roll call. Ms. Stiglich?
Aye.
Mr. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Unmute, Patrick.
Mr. Lane?
He's trying.
Aye.
Perfect. Ms. Walker?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Hain?
Aye.
All right. Board, I would like a motion to approve that mandatory mask guidelines be put in place for all students and staff as presented beginning January 10th, 2022 through January 21st, 2022. Mask guidelines will be reviewed again at the regular January 20th, 2022 Board of Education meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So we had Michelle and then Chad?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Dr. Rompus.
Good afternoon, board members. I want to start with sharing some of our current county and district-wide data as we have done each month. Looking specifically at St. Charles County, the current 14-day rolling average of positive cases is right about 227. And for reference, the highest average that we had back during this fall was right about 100. So it's been a significant increase since we hit our lowest numbers in November of 2021. Looking at the 7-day positive test rate within all of St. Charles County, it's currently at 22.4%, and within our attendance zip codes, it is 22.9% as of today. 12% was the highest that we had during the fall, and if you'll remember, we got down to about 6% at one point as we were looking to get closer to the 5% threshold as we moved through the school year. We shared at last month's meeting that we'd continue to monitor the district and the county data and make decisions as necessary based on what we were seeing. We do want to emphasize that since returning, we are continuing to conduct contact tracing interviews. So when a positive case is reported to us, we still talk with that student or with that staff member or with their family to determine what symptoms took place, when did those symptoms begin, where do they believe the exposure took place. And so I believe there was a misconception out there that we were no longer gathering any information or trying to understand where the COVID within our district was coming from. But we do have our administrators and our nurses still conducting that part of the contact tracing process. Once we have that information and the buildings send it over to us, we do update our COVID dashboard, which is available on the website. Since we started the dashboard last school year, the process we've had in place is that we remove students or staff from the dashboard following the last day of their isolation period. So initially that was a 14-day window when we had close contacts, 10 days for positive, and then later on when the county changed the options around close contacts, we used day 11 as being the average of a 10-day isolation period. With the recent change of isolation period that we announced earlier in the week, we are now removing staff and students from the dashboard on day 6. So it's a rolling average looking after their 5-day isolation as a positive case. So each morning you will notice that the numbers do go down on the dashboard because that's when we remove the students and staff who are eligible to return. And then over the course of the day, as the cases get reported to the administration office, we add the numbers, the new cases onto the dashboard. Each day this week, as we've looked at the numbers, we have had a drop in the morning, but the number of new cases coming in later in the day has been larger. And so our net increase has increased each day this week as we've watched the cases. As of 3 o'clock today, we had 696 cases reported since returning from the winter break. This represents 48.7% of all of the COVID cases we've had reported in the Francis Howell School District since we started school this year. And I'll share that even since 3 o'clock, we've had approximately 25 more cases reported to us. Right now, only 6 of those cases that are on the dashboard are believed to be connected directly to school spread. This number is very low. It's less than 1% of the reported cases that we've had. But we also recognize that with everyone being back, this is just our 5th day of school with all of our students and staff back in session, that there is an increased risk of exposure and that we would anticipate that number going up here now that we've been back in school. I want to share with you, today was our lowest student attendance rate of the week. We were at 91.8% today. We had 5 of our individual buildings with attendance rates below 90% for student attendance. And then our staff attendance, our number of absences for staff have continued to be high, but today was right in line with what we've experienced on other Fridays throughout this school year when we look at the overall number of teachers and staff who are absent. In addition to the masking that the recommendation has been made to put in place for the next 2 weeks, we are also advising our buildings to limit the number of visitors. We're not saying there will be no visitors. We understand that there are situations that we would like to still have them in the buildings, but they also will be required to mask. And then we are also postponing any large events that would have taken place during the school day for the next 2 weeks that bring large groups of students or staff together, and encouraging them to move those to a virtual format or to postpone them until a later date. We hope that the combination of these strategies, both the masking and tightening up some of the other mitigation strategies, will minimize the exposure that we have in the school setting over the next couple of weeks while we continue to monitor this data. And then we would make an updated presentation to you based on the data at the January 20th board meeting. And then I can answer if there are any questions board members may have related to any of that.
Board, what kind of questions? Mike or Mr. Hain?
The question I have is, I know that our sports and other activities are guidance by MSHA, so we have to follow their rules and stuff. Are we making any changes to our attendance protocols for basketball, wrestling, and other events?
We are going to highly encourage and recommend mask usage at our after school and evening events that take place within the district. But those events are optional and it will be up to individual attendees to make that decision. But again, we're looking at the safety of not only our students and our student athletes, but our entire community. So we will encourage them to be worn at those events, but will not be requiring that.
I have a question. Medical consultants, people that you guys have been talking to come up with this recommendation, do they have predictions on where this is going to go? I mean, I've seen other countries that they go way up and then they just as quickly go way down. So can you give us some idea of what I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what you think the future could hold? Just curious.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Walker. I'll speak to that one. We've been following the research that we've seen over the last few weeks, and a lot of that was based on countries that were ahead of our country as far as when Omicron first showed up. And there seems to be a lot of agreement that it has been a really fast spike followed by a really fast decline. And so the curve is much steeper than it was for the Delta variant, but it's also been an equally steep decline shortly thereafter. And so, you know, as you just said, there's no crystal ball and we can't guarantee these outcomes, but there's reasons to be optimistic that we will weather a few short weeks of this and then start to see a really swift decline from those high numbers. I was on a Zoom call just Monday with a local pediatrician who has been very involved, you know, across the state, advising around COVID mitigation strategies. And she said the same. No one can predict for sure that we're going to see the exact same results as other countries, but from what we've seen, there's reason for optimism.
So my follow-up question to that is, where's the health department? Are they doing anything anymore as far as COVID or supporting us, giving us recommendations? Have they updated with the CDC guideline updates? Where's our county health department in all of this?
So our county health department had told us after the CDC first sent out their new guidance that they would follow up as soon as they were ready. And that literally just hit our inboxes about 20 minutes ago. So took a quick look at it. Their positive COVID isolation seems to be right in line with the CDC recommendation. They did say that due to that court order, they are no longer issuing quarantines for close contacts. So that is the same response as we heard from them back prior to winter break. So the only update we got from them today was not a surprise, just that they're in agreement with the CDC recommendation for those who are positive. But otherwise, they are still involved with positive cases, but they are not involved with contact tracing or issuing orders of quarantine as they did up until that court case came through.
And then I guess this will be my last one. Have we given any thought to offering tests for people in the community, our students, our staff? It is very difficult to even get a COVID test right now. I know they've got them at the Family Arena, but you can't even get an appointment until the middle of next week because there are just so many people. Is that something that we could think about?
It is something we can think about. I was made aware today of a Zoom call next Tuesday where this exact issue is going to be talked about. There are some companies out there that are doing what they can to try to partner, but even the companies aren't necessarily finding easy access to tests on a large scale. But as of that Tuesday meeting, we will be able to learn more. I can't promise whether or not it will lead to something we will be able to participate in or not. And your question was more than just for us. Could we help with our community? I think our first step would be to say, is there something we could or should do for our students and staff? And then the follow-up question is, if possible, could it be broader than that? So we'll gather more information next Tuesday, but at this point, I don't know what that information will be or what the availability will be.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering all my questions.
Mr. Ziggemeyer?
I just had a question, and I know that we talked about in the past kind of tailoring an approach to possibly just schools and implementing different strategies based on data at each individual school. Did you guys factor in any of that for today's recommendation? And if so, is there any kind of analysis behind why we're going universal rather than looking at individual schools?
So that is something that we looked at, and we shared during the December board meeting that moving forward, we wanted to respond at the most local level possible, whether that was a classroom, a building, or at the district level. The reality is the number of cases that we have seen are significantly higher than anybody had really expected coming back from the break. When we looked, we've been following the data daily by building, and as many of you are following our dashboard as well. The changes have happened very quickly because of all of the reporting that's come in from before break. So we've had buildings that have gotten up to 3 or 4%, and then the next day have dropped down to below 1%. And there's been a bit of oscillation as these cases have been reported from coming back to school. So as we move forward now, we'll have we'll have moved through the bubble of people that got COVID over break, and we'll have a better understanding of specific COVID numbers within the district and within our individual buildings, and would be prepared moving forward to respond at the specific building level. The reality is right now, the overall number of cases in the district and as well as within the, the overall number of cases in the county, and then specifically in the district now being over 700 in the last hour or so here, there's a significant amount of COVID in the community. And we recognize that we've been here long enough now that spread can take place in the schools, because that didn't really begin until we've been here several days and people have been here possibly with the illness. Several weeks from now, if the transmission rate within the district remains low, that would be an important piece of data. Or if the overall county and district number of positive cases comes down significantly, that would also allow us to look again at the idea of specific buildings. But right now it was really looking at the overall numbers in the district and in the county, as well as, like I said, some of the quick changes in those percentages on the number of cases, which is what caused us to look district-wide at this point.
Okay, and then as far as 2-week strategy, there is a sunset on this recommendation. It looks like it'd be the 21st if that would fall off. I guess if it does get approved where there is a universal mask mandate, we'd be taking a look at next week, the numbers would likely be an indication if there might be school spread, if that's kind of what I'm hearing from you. And then that second week could see what kind of impacts masks even had if we see that. Is that a fair analysis, or is that there a little bit more to it than that?
No, I think that is a fair analysis. We are going to watch the data. We watch it every single day. What we will do is keep an eye on it even during this 2-week time period. But as of the board meeting, we will take that data right up as far as we can to have the most up-to-date information available for that board meeting. While answering this question as well, I want to point out this mandate we are recommending will be in effect through the 21st, even though the board meeting happens on the 20th. I do not anticipate that if we were to make a change on the 20th to go out at 10 p.m. that night and tell everybody something's different the very next morning. So we are recommending this stays in place through the 21st. Whatever we recommend at that board meeting and whatever the action comes out of there would start the following Monday. And so, but I do think your overall assessment is fair. We will watch it daily and we will be ready to make a recommendation that is in line with the actual results we're seeing over the next 2 weeks.
Ms. Stiglich?
My question is for Dr. Buckman and the academic side of this. I know that we have finals coming up in the next couple of weeks at the end of the semester. Has there been any consideration into postponing finals or doing anything with the finals due to the fact that so many kids and so many teachers are out? Or do we have a plan in place to talk about the academic piece?
Really haven't. I've had some individual conversations with some secondary folks, and so far we feel like we can handle it individual cases with kids. We don't have there is no back plan to move finals, if that's really what you're asking.
Okay, and I guess on that same line, are we having a lot more students attending because of finals coming up that normally would have stayed home, but they don't want to miss the reviews? Have we looked into that? Have we talked to the nurses or attendants about that? You know, we have all know that people shouldn't come to school sick, but are they knowing that finals are coming up?
Ms. Stiglich, it's anecdotal feedback. We have heard some of that from our nurses and our administrators at the high school level, that there is a concern that students want to be here for the review sessions. Students are concerned about being here for the finals next week. What I would emphasize, and as Dr. Buckman said, she will work with the principals and with the departments to address individual students' needs. But if you are ill, if you're having symptoms, you need to be home. We don't want to penalize you at school, and I understand that a student wants to be here for the review. They want to take the test quickly after they've attended some of those reviews, but we want you to be healthy and we want to keep the rest of our school community healthy. So we encourage you, if you are having the symptoms, to stay home, and your teachers and your administrators will support you and work with you to get through the finals to end the semester.
Thank you very much. And I guess my last question, and it's also going to come down to the teacher side of things. Are we also encouraging our teachers to stay home with that, even though for the same rationale, because we've got some really awesome teachers out there that are going to show up, even if they're not feeling good, to make sure their kids are supported? Are we sending that same message? And in that same vein, are we looking at reinstating the COVID policy yet? Or are we still just going to watch that? And
we do need to be sending that same message to our teachers. That is important. We do have amazing teachers and they want to be here. They understand that there's a sub shortage and that if they're not here, that sometimes puts a burden on other colleagues and other staff to step in and help them. But the reality is we want everyone, if you're ill, whether it's COVID or it's other cold and flu-like symptoms, you do need to be home and take care of yourself. Your own personal rest is the best thing to get you through any illness and get you back here. And so we continue to talked with our administrators today, talked with nurses earlier this week. We're aware of the shortage. We have some internal systems to try and provide some extra support of adults in situations where staff are absent. And I appreciate that they want to be here for our students. But again, anybody who is ill or has symptoms needs to be home, and we will work through the coverage side of things.
thank you.
I just thought of another question. So how are we making sure that the kids that are being kept home are keeping up? So we don't have COVID in my house, but both my boys have been home almost the entire week this week because they are symptomatic, even with a negative COVID test. I'm not sending them to school. However, My middle schooler is going to go back to finals next week, having not been there at all this week. And my fifth graders missed out on so much math. How are we going to catch these kids up when there's so many of them out?
Our secondary students have access to Canvas, and our teachers are posting materials to Canvas. So I can tell you I have a secondary student, and I get frequent emails that are telling them review materials are on Canvas. If there's a one-off example where that's not happening, we can certainly follow up with the building, and we can work with that situation to figure out how we can get the kids the supports that they need. We don't have finals at the elementary level, and so I talked to a principal today, and she said, I have kids every year that miss a week or so to go to Disney here and there. And so we're going to treat it like that, and we're going to help them get caught up when they get back, just like they would if they missed for the flu or whatever else they were out for. So, it's certainly hitting us harder than a typical absences would, but we have processes in place to navigate through when kids are absent for an extended amount of time, and we'll just scale that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Buckman.
Board, any other questions, comments? Mr. Lang?
I have more of a comment more than a question. I think this is not only a smart move, I think it's a great move, and I support it wholeheartedly.
All right, anything else, board? Any other questions? Dr. Uppes, could you tell me again what our attendance rate was today and what it usually is?
Our student attendance rate today was just under 92%, 91.8%. I think Dr. Buckman can speak better to what that is approximately on an average day. Do you have that in front of you, Dr. Buckman?
And I don't even want to guess with.
Yeah, I don't want to give you a wrong number. Like I said, it's the lowest it's been this week. We've had one day this week, we were closer to 95%, and it's lower today.
Okay, thank you.
You know, the MSIP standards speak always to 90%. We always want our schools to be above the 90% level at the end of the year with total absences included. And as a district, we're usually higher. I want to say mid 90s. And so where we're at is lower than average.
I want to say 94, but I would feel much better if I fact check that and follow up with an accurate number for you guys.
That's perfect, thank you. Board, questions, comments? Nope, okay. Then let's do this by roll call again.
Ms. Stiglich,
Aye.
Mr. Lang,
Aye.
Mr. Ziegemeier,
Aye.
Mr. Lane,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Lang,
Aye.
Mr. Hain.
Aye.
All right. Board, I would like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's do by roll call again, Ms. Hepler.
Ms. Stiglich,
Aye.
Mr. Lang,
Aye.
Mr. Ziegemeier,
Aye.
Mr. Lane,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Lang,
Aye.
Mr. Hain.
Aye.
All right, thanks all. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you.